Hello and welcome to our yin class. This class is devoted completely to the spine and the spinal health. So it was inspired by the quote by Martha Graham that the spine is the tree of life, respect it. And so today we are going to respect it by being lovely and restorative with this yin style. And we're going to move the spine in all different ways to stretch it forward, back, side, twist it, just so it's got its maximum health. Okay, so to get started, we're actually going to start standing up. So find yourself against a wall. Now, depending on your flexibility in your hamstrings is dependent on how close your heels are going to go to the wall. So I'm going to take my feet quite a bit away today because I want to be gentle. I do have my lower back and my upper back against the wall to begin with. And then very gently, I'm going to take my chin to chest all the way down. And I can either drape my hands forward and down, or I can interlock my hands around the elbow creases. I'm going to let the head completely hang and be loose. So we're just going to hang here for a few moments, not too long. Lovely thing about this is that it decompresses the spine and lengthens out the lower spine. If you, however, have any lower disc injuries, I'd advise you to really bend the knees, plant the elbows on either knee, and work with a straight spine so you're not forward folding. If you've got really flexible hamstrings, you can work towards straight, but we are trying to work for length of the spine. So if you need to bend the knees so that the stomach is on the legs, and this also gives that, it also gives you a bit of compression in the stomach, so it's working your digestion as well. Good, so whatever variation you're in, check in with your head and neck to make sure that they're completely released. I'll be here for a few more breaths. If you want to, you can start to straighten the legs a little bit more. If it's too intense, step the feet a little bit further away from the wall, bend the knees a little bit further, even use that support. Also, if you're finding yourself dizzy or you have high blood pressure and this is just too intense, then bring yourself a little bit further upright. And then wherever you are, release your grip, bend your knees, roll vertebra by vertebra all the way up to standing. And then keeping a little bend in the knees, interlock the hands behind the back. Elbows are a little bit bent. Lift the chest up, lift the heart up towards the sky. You can even lift the chin a little bit. Just opening up the front of that chest. And then we'll go back in for one more round of this dangling posture. So find your variation. And we'll be here for a few breaths. So in yin yoga, we never want to be pushing our edge. We want to just be slowly shifting the body. So if it is too intense, back out a little bit. And if you do find that your body's softened quite a lot, then you can take it a little bit further. Tune into your head and neck and shoulders. Make sure they're not trying to involve themselves. About halfway through. Feel that spine lengthening down towards the earth, decompressing. Breath here. And then slowly rolling vertebra by vertebra all the way up to standing. And one more little counterbalance. Shrug the shoulders back and down, interlock the hands behind the hips. Lift the heart space up, maybe lift the chin up to the sky just to open the front body in opposition. Slowly release. Roll chin to chest all the way back to your mat. And find yourself on all fours. I'm just going to move my pillows a little bit away. These are going to come in handy soon. Okay. Hands are directly under the shoulders, knees stacked directly underneath the hips. Just a few rounds of cat and cow, Pilates, to bring a little bit of movement into the spine. So inhale, take the chest forward, lift the hips high. Exhale, drop the tailbone, draw the belly in towards the spine. Inhale to expand. Exhale, draw in. Inhale, press forward. Exhale, draw in. Inhale, this will be our last one of these. Exhale. Okay, our next movement, Anahatasana. So this is a heart melting posture which is going to open up our shoulders. We start here. You want to keep your hips directly stacked above the knees. If you know that you've got really tender knees or you're going to find some discomfort, feel free to pop either a blanket or a pillow or something underneath your knees for that protection, because we will be here for a little bit of time. And have some pillows handy nearby, ready to go, just in case you decide to use them. So from here, we're able to take our hands forward, walk them forward a bit like a down-facing dog, and then drop the chest. Turn the head one way or the other way. Yep, so turn the head one way or the other. If you're quite flexible in and around the shoulders and you don't want to place your chest down on anything, you can either take the forehead to the floor or chin. So we're going to be here for the next few minutes, so find where is good for you. If there's too much pressure on the shoulder joints, take the arms a little bit wider than shoulder distance, and then allow the heart to melt down. See the forehead connected to the mat, chin forward, but just be careful and check in with the neck how that feels. Or pop the pillows underneath the chest. Get all your fidgeties out now, so then you can relax into this posture. So you can relax. So if you do feel any discomfort in and around the arm joints, or you feel any tingly sensation, then it might be some nerves compressing. So either take the arms a little bit wider or place a bend in the elbows as well. Bend in those elbows. Just remembering to keep breathing. We are going to be here for a few more breaths. So if the eyes aren't already closed down, either soften the gaze or close them down for these final few breaths. And then on your next exhale, release this posture. Use your hands to walk you back up to all fours. Move your props away. And either with the knees together or knees as wide as the mat, take a child's pose. If the arms have been too far in front of you for too long now, drop the hands via the side of the feet. A few breaths here. And then slowly rolling all the way back up to seated. Okay, we're gonna take banana asana now. Yes, it's literally what it sounds like. We're gonna create a banana. So lying down, you probably won't need any props for this, any pillows. So if they're near you, just move them out of the way and lie yourself down. You're gonna take your hands up overhead, interlock the fingers on each elbow. And then from here, choose which side you're going to start on. You're starting and you're going to keep your buttocks firmly on the ground as you take your right and left leg all the way over to the right. And then take your upper body all the way over to the right. So if you were looking from a bird's eye view, you would now look like a banana. Great. So your body, the backs of your legs, backs of the buttocks, back of the back, back of the shoulders, back of the arms, all want to be firmly on the ground. So if it's a little bit too intense, just back off a little bit. You don't want to be at your full intensity just yet. And we're stretching the entire side body and spine. So this will get right into the intercostals between the ribs. It'll come all the way down the side of the body and into the IT band in the side of the hips and legs. If you feel any tingly sensation in and around the arms or shoulders, it becomes too intense, just give yourself a little hug instead, rather than having the arms overhead. If you want to make this a little more intense now, as we come into the last half of it, you can either cross the outer or inner foot on top. Have a little play and see which one feels best for you. Often the outer leg, so the one that's further away from the curve, is going to add a little bit more stretch, but not always. So just find what's best for you. We've got a few more breaths on this side, so if you do feel like you want to take it a bit further, walk it away. If it is a little too intense, take it back a little bit. on your next exhale, slowly releasing, come back to the center, unlink the elbows for a second and just lie there in your Shavasana. But have a notice in the difference of sides. Do you feel really compressed on one side and really long on the other? Do you feel lots of energy buzzing on one side and not the other? It's all right. We're going to even this out. So now, let's not cross, but take the hands up overhead, interlock the hands, and then walk the feet the way you haven't gone yet, away from the midline, and then take the upper body. So once again, if we were having a bird's eye view from the top, we'd see that we look a little bit like a banana. We want to feel pretty relaxed in our yin yoga practice. So if it's too intense, back off a little bit. This is not about pushing our edges. We hold these postures for long periods so that we can slowly shift the fascia in our body. And if we have a lot of dense fascia and big buildup of fascia in one part of the body, yin yoga and the long holding of these postures is the best way to even out the body again. So we've only got a few more breaths on this side. If you want to increase the intensity, here is the time. You can cross one leg over the other. You can go a little bit further into the curve, or vice versa. If it's become too intense and you find that you're unable to relax, back off a little bit. It's not a test, not a competition. Slowly releasing this side, coming back to center, find your Shavasana, and just notice how the body feels now. It might feel even, it might not. You might even decide to pause and take one side a little bit longer. And then from here, hug the knees into the chest. Circle the knees each way a few times. And then rock up and down the spine a few times. And come up to seated. We're going to come into caterpillar now. So you might want to have your pillows, your bolster, your block nearby. It's always a great one for this. So, starting upright in Dandasana. Lifting up nice and tall. Just flex the feet to begin with. If you suffer from sciatica or you have very tight hamstrings, then I suggest popping yourself up either onto a blanket, a towel, a pillow, just so your hips are that little bit higher than your knees. It's going to take some pressure off the lower back there and help us to tilt forward. And then from here, unless you have some lower back issues where you can't forward fold at the moment, you can choose to then stay upright for this. You can come into a forward fold, and I like to place a few pillows as I do this. So it's like I've got something to hug. And then I can either put fists underneath the forehead, palms out to the side. I can turn my head one side or the other, and we'll hold here. So we'll start I'm going to be here for the next few moments. So make yourself comfortable. Don't be pushing yourself to that edge. And if you do choose to turn the head to one side, I will let you know about halfway through so you can shift to the other side to make that a little bit more even. Okay? So using whatever makes you comfortable. If you're finding that your hamstrings are very, very tight, you can even plot a pillow underneath your knees and keep your knees quite bent. Because although you are going to get a hamstring stretch, we are focusing on the spine, and that lovely forward rounding of the spine is really luxurious to all the ligaments in the spine. About halfway through our caterpillar. So if you do have your head turned to one side, shift it to the other way so that you do get that equal neck position. And this is always the point to tune in with your body. If it's too intense, maybe you need to add a prop to make it a little less intense. If it's now become quite comfortable and you felt things shift in your body, maybe it's the time to take a prop away and go a little bit deeper into the posture. You're the only one in your body, so tune into what's best for you. And we'll be here for about another minute. It might feel a little uncomfortable. And if it is, just tune into your breath. And you can even think to breathe into the lower back to create some space that way as well. And on your next breath, let go of this posture and gently make your way upright and remove any props you have. Just pop them over to the side, out of the way, very gently out of that. We held that for quite a bit of time. And remove anything you might be sitting on as well. And just as a little counter pose, take your feet hip-width distance apart, hands directly behind the hips, about 5-10 centimeters behind. And we're going to take hammock, so press the feet down to the earth, lift the hips up, keep your eye gaze forward. And if you don't have any issues with the neck, You could choose to look up or even drop the head back. Otherwise, keeping the gaze forward towards the legs. Just 1 or 2 more breaths here to open up the body. And then if your head is tilted back, draw chin to chest, and then we'll all lower the hips down. Great. So we're going to come into dragon now. Yep, so dragon sounds a little scary. It can be quite intense on the hips, but we're not going to hold it for too long. We're opening up the hips purely for our next posture, which is a back bend. And we do need to make sure there's a bit of space and opening in the hips. So have your pillows nearby. Perhaps have your block and or blocks nearby. It's always a constant little shift in our yin practice. So take your right leg forward first. And we're going to stack the right knee directly on to the right ankle. So we don't want to be further forward. We want to be directly above that ankle. Then our left hip is going to start moving down towards the mat. So we can have our hands on our front leg. We can have our hands on the inner seam of that right leg. If you're quite flexible, you might take the elbows all the way down. And you might even twist by placing your right hand on your right knee and then twisting up to the sky. So find your variation. We're just going to be here for about 2 minutes. If you want, these pillows can be here to rest your arms on, or you can rest your arms on the block. We're trying to open up the front hip, but you might also feel this in and around that right inner groin. Beautiful. We'll be here for about 1 more minute. So breathing deeply. Does require a little bit of effort, this one, especially if you're staying upright and not using the hands to support you. But see if you can relax as much as possible and allow gravity to drop you down. If you're finding discomfort in and underneath this back knee, maybe pop a pillow or some padding underneath that knee. And for the last few breaths, if you do want to intensify, you can make this a little bit more active. It'll make it a little less yin-like, but intensify that stretch of the hip. And you can lift up that back leg, so lift the knee off. Here for about 3 more breaths. So whichever position you're in, whichever version of dragon, just commit to these last 3 breaths. And then wherever you are, drop the knee down if it's lifted, and then very gently shift back. Just take a child's pose for a breath or 2. And then come up, shift your props to the side for a second. Take that left leg forward now. Stack the left knee directly on top of the ankle. Option 1 might be to stay upright. Option 2, hands can come down. Option 3, take the elbows down. And then option 4, take the left hand to the left knee and take it into a bit of a twist. You've also got the option of blocks, pillows, whatever feels best for you. And we'll be here for a little bit longer. So see if you can relax It is called the dragon. It can be tremendously difficult. It's one of the harder yin postures. Okay, so there is a level of discomfort, especially if you've been sitting in chairs all day and your hip flexors are tight. Good thing is we've got less than a minute left now. And then for your last few breaths, if you'd like, you can tuck those back toes, make it a little bit more intense, or you can back off. Whichever variation you choose. 3 long breaths. And wherever you are, dropping the knee, using your hands to support you, and make your way back into a child's pose just to reverse the hip crease. And then coming upright, place the pillows behind you, just in case you choose to use them. You're going to come into one back bend called camel. So it's quite an active yin posture, so we're only going to hold it for up to a minute, okay? Can be quite intense. If you do have any lower back disorders or anything going on with the lower back, maybe just stay in child's pose for this. We will meet you there in child's pose after this. Otherwise, hands are going to come behind your feet, a little bit like the hammock pose we did before. I'm going to keep my knees about hip width distance apart, and then I'm going to press my chest up towards the sky. So I'm opening up the front body, chin either forward, and if the neck's okay, option to go back. If that's not intense enough for you, the next option, and I'd have the pillows nearby just to test you, is to come up, place the hands face down on the pelvis, lean back, find your pillows, find your blocks, and then lift the chest up towards the sky. Whichever variation you're in, we're here for 5 breaths, opening up the front body, either head forward, or if your neck's okay, head back. If your neck is back, maybe opening the mouth to fully open up that throat. Last breath, looking forward. If you're in the full posture, use your hands to support you to come up. If you're in the gentler posture, very gently lower the hips down to the knees, and we're all going to meet in a neutral position to begin with. So before we go into forward fold, we just want to neutralize the spine. So keeping upright, just allowing the breath to settle. You'll probably feel quite a bit of energy that's opened up in and around the heart space. It's a beautiful heart opener. And then very gently coming into child's pose. We'll have this one with the hands next to the feet, shoulders hunched forward and down. If you need some support underneath the head, you've got option of a block, fists, pillow. If the knees are uncomfortable, because we will be here for another minute or so, pop a pillow or a blanket underneath the hips, just so there's less angle and pressure on the knees. So So whatever works for you. Few more breaths here. Really breathing deeply into the lower back. And then let's slowly come vertebra by vertebra all the way back out. Final posture before we finish off this practice. So move your props away a little bit. They won't be used in this one. There are, however, a few contraindications which are quite important. So we're going to come into the snail. It's a little bit like plow pose in a active asana class. So if you do have any real lower back issues, if you've got any neck issues, you're pregnant and or menstruating, I suggest coming back to caterpillar for a second round with that forward fold, okay? Or staying upright in Dandasana, okay? Otherwise, coming down, we won't be here for too long. And then from here, hands are either side of your hips. Let's bring the knees up. Press the floor down with the hands and then bring the legs up and overhead. So I've conveniently got my pillows right behind me. So it's really nice for them to just rest there. Otherwise, if I'm more flexible, my feet can touch the ground. Find what's best for you. Hands can support the lower back or hands can stay planted. We do want this curve in the spine. Really important, please do not turn your head to look at me. Keep your head facing completely upright so that you are safe with the neck. Going to be here for about 8 more breaths. Another option would be to bend the knees, take them down towards the floor. Even if your legs are straight, allow them to have that gentle, natural bend. And hopefully, you'll feel this lovely stretch out through the spine. Don't feel like the hips have to be really high. We want to embrace that curve of the spine. Remembering, if this is not the right posture for you today, there's always the caterpillar where you're sitting upright or forward folding over the legs. Not much pressure on my neck because I'm going for a more curved spine rather than this active posture that we often use in an active yoga class. It's more about lengthening the spine. Last breath. And then as you roll down, very gently, a little bit active here, draw the belly into the spine, roll vertebra by vertebra, all the way down to the mat. The slower the better for this. And then hug the knees into the chest. Love little massage by drawing the knees in little circles. This is massaging out the lower spine. And then let's take a simple twist before we enter into Shavasana. Millions of options. You can flop the knees to one side. You could take one leg straight, one leg bent over to the side. You can cross one leg over to the other. Just a few breaths here, allowing both shoulders to be heavy as you twist and rejuvenate the spine. Really good way of neutralizing the spine as well, so that's why we often do it at the end of classes. A few more breaths. to the midline, shifting your variation of twist over to the other side. So just making a choice. 2 legs, 1 leg straight, 1 leg bent, 1 leg crossed over. Whichever one you do, allow the upper body to be heavy, sink into the floor. Slowly unwind, and we're going to find our Shavasana. So make yourself comfortable, flop the legs out to the side. If there is any lower back discomfort, you've got one of your handy pillows nearby to pop underneath the knees so that your knees are a little bit bent up. Maybe even 2 pillows, whatever's best for you. That'll just take a bit of pressure off that lower back. And we'll be here for the next few moments, just letting that practice melt into our bodies. Stay here for longer in Shavasana. In fact, I highly recommend that. But if you are in a time constraint today, bringing some movement to the fingers and toes. And shifting the arms and feet away from each other, stretching out as if waking up for the first time, lengthening out that spine. And then hugging the knees into the chest. Roll over one side. And then using the hands to help lift you up to a comfortable seat. I'm finishing with the words of Martha Graham. The spine is the tree of life. Respect it. Bring your hands to your heart space. Gently softening down the eyes. Take a moment to thank yourself for practicing and giving your spine the respect it deserves. Namaste.